What if the answers you've been searching for have been inside you all along? Welcome to Insights with Purpose, the power of inner wisdom. We're Hemali and Sheila, two friends on two continents, having the conversations that bring us closer to the truth of who we are. No scripts, just real talk. Pull up a seat.
Today, we're talking about the ways spirit communicates with us and not just the gentle nudges. We're getting into the signs, the synchronicities, and the moments when everything falls apart at exactly the right time. If you've ever had your car not start, your alarm not go off, or your plans completely unravel, and later realized it was actually protecting you, stay with us. By the end, you might start seeing every disruption in your life as a conversation you weren't listening to yet.
We have a big one today. We are talking about signs, synchronicities, and technical glitches. And oh my gosh, those are plenty. They keep happening over and over. And I wonder, have you ever got into your car with your key and have it not start? Or for some reason, your alarm doesn't go off and you're late for work. Have you ever had that experience of what is going on? Why is everything falling apart? Only to realize that it was to your benefit all along. So here we go. Hi, Amali.
Hi, I absolutely love this topic to talk about signs and synchronicity. And I guess I can start talking about how or when I start noticing. Or I feel like now that I look back, I've had an out of body experience when I was 8, 9 years old when my uncle passed away. I can tell you exactly everything, the details of it, specific details of the whole thing, the ritual and all that. But I think that, and then I forgot about it. I really got into it when I was reading the book, or I came across the book, Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, I think that's his name. And it's like an adventure and just looking for these insights and manuscripts. And it talks about coincidences, but meaningful coincidences. And I personally do not believe in coincidence. I think everything is synchronicity, everything is synchronized. And so, once I read that, I would really go out and look for the signs. Like the book talks about how every meeting, every event, you meet someone on the road, someone you share something with them. It's like that divine time and divine plan and to take you to the next or higher level of consciousness. So this is more towards like going in depth, shifting your perspective on spirituality, like going deeper into your consciousness and how every meeting is meaningful and that leads you to the next step or next level in your life. And I started doing that and it was so exciting. And especially the book talks about it happened in Peru and he's traveling through there and looking to different places, goes to different places. Uh, so when I went to Peru in 2017, I was just like over the hills about it. I was like trying to notice each conversation I have, the person who sat, I went by myself. So it's like the person that sat next to me, the conversations that we had, like, ooh, there is going to be a message. Either, this person's going to give it to me or I'm going to share something that's going to help them. And it was like a magic. It's miracles. It's like, this adventure trip. And I yeah, that's how I kind of got started. And I've had out of body experiences two other times. Again, once when my aunt passed away, which is 2019, and there was one in 2015 where life was just too chaotic and a lot of shifts were happening for me. I had just started into energy work, Reiki, and things. So things were just falling apart. But at the same time, things were building. within me. Like they were dismantling so the new can come in.
Mhm.
The old stories were dismantling, I should say, but life looks like it was falling apart for sure. So,
Wow.
yeah, tell me about some of your experiences or when you got started or when you started noticing some of
Oh
these
gosh.
signs.
I was 8 and it was not subtle. There
Okay.
were people coming out of the wall and I would go to sleep and every night was there was activity. And I remember the figures coming out. They the one I remember the most because again, I was 8. It was 1988 and Al Capone came out of the wall with a hat on a suit. I don't know who
Wow.
Al Capone is. I was in Dominican Republic. I didn't speak
Wow.
English, right? And starts telling me about his passing, things around his life, and that was my introduction to like signs, synchronicities, and symbols. Um,
Wow.
and it didn't stop, right? It became more and more attuned to helping people cross over who had been in the in between,
Hmm.
for lack of a better word, at this point, who had traumatic crossings. And I was 8 years old. I didn't have language for what was happening, but I can remember Archangel Michael giving me the instructions
Wow.
and telling me how to navigate different energies and different frequencies because sometimes you don't think so, but there you may not think so, but there's this denseness that
Mm.
can come with a soul who is not aware that they have passed, right? And I was 8 years old. Again, I don't have the language. I don't know what is going on. I couldn't question my family around it. It was like, no, hush, hush, right? Then I started having dreams that started happening consecutively and they would happen. And then it's like, oh no, don't tell me your dreams because then they became afraid, family members, right? So for me, it was very early on and it wasn't scary. I felt protected the entire time. I felt like I could navigate because I was given the tools, even though I didn't know what I was doing,
Yeah.
right? As a modality, I just knew it as, oh, this is what 8 year olds do, you
Wow.
know? I had no idea it was different from for anybody else until I started talking. And then everyone's like, shh, don't mention
Mm.
it. Don't mention it. So, signs and the spirit world have been really close to me since very young because of traumatic experience and because of disconnection from my own inner guidance. It kind of like pushed away to the background. And there was a part in my life that I was like, it doesn't exist. The dreams kept happening. Things kept being like, how do you know that? That just happened. And it's not even on the news. How do you know this? You know, and I had no explanation for it. I just saw it and I would share it. And then in 2019, which coincidentally enough is where you were struggling, at the end of 2019, I started receiving other angels and they were giving me details about other cultures. For example, runes. You know, runes? I had no idea what runes were.
Hmm.
And I received an image, felt this angel come, got the name from this angel. It was Archangel Uriel, had his frequency, and he started putting into my visual third eye uh, space drawings that I started
Hmm.
drawing into the back of my notebook. And I asked, "What are these?" And Archangel said, "These are runes." And it catapulted me into going into that. What is this? What else can I do? Is this real? Am I going crazy?
Yeah.
Right? So it was beautiful. I never felt scared. It was not a part of my life that I felt fear. I felt like I had always been tuned into that aspect, even though I completely shut it away a lot of times. Because imagine having people who have crossed just show up behind someone where you're working,
Yeah.
and there's this person, and I feel their energy coming through, but there's no way I am going to say, hey, can I give you a message from the other side? That was not part of the deal for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would push it away. But 20 also a very impactful year for me, especially at the end, because it was when I realized something big is happening, but I couldn't put my finger on there. And I know you and I are speaking about like these big experiences, but what are other subtle signs that
Yeah.
you are connecting, receiving? What are other things that you have experienced beyond this big, big moments of? something's here.
Well, I can talk about before I started any of this. When we bought this house that we were living in, and it was built from ground up, there were woods here. So woods were cut down and houses were built. So when we moved in, a friend was just joking around with us that, there are graves under here. There were graves under here. And so it was just a joke and I just laughed it off. But so once the house, I always felt that in my, like there's something in the basement. So I wouldn't come down in the basement. Even when I had kids, like when we moved from the apartment to the house, it's like my husband worked late in the night. So I would either go to my mom's or my friend's house until he would show up. I wouldn't even be in the house by myself. I just felt something. Was there nothing negative, nothing intrusive, aggressive, any of that? But I just felt something. And that fear was in me. And then eventually, with the kids also. But then I would have, when we would go upstairs in the bedroom, it was just like a mental saying, beyond this, you're not allowed. So beyond these steps, you're not allowed into the bedrooms or anything at the night. In the night, I would say. And this is my basement is my sacred space now. I do all my healing and work here. It is a very blessed space. But that was one of my experience. I feel that like I would feel something, nudge, or I would feel something, someone is behind me. And I would turn and there's no one there. Besides that, I think that was the main. How about you?
I think you and I have talked about this a little bit, and you're going to be
Yeah.
like, yeah. So, different guides, different entities will communicate differently, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back to the ending of 2019. I started getting quarters. I would find quarters everywhere, and they had a specific date, a year on them. So a lot of the times it was my birthday.
Wow.
So, right? So I was like, why am I continuing to get quarters? Like most people pick up dimes,
Pennies.
nickels, pennies.
Yeah.
How are there so many quarters everywhere? Who's leaving these quarters, right? And I started finding coins, not just quarters, because I learned that I could assign a coin value to a specific loved one who had crossed over. So I would say, my boyfriend passed away when I was 15. And I would say, send me some dimes. They are difficult, you know?
That's so cool.
And when I saw the dimes, I would say, thank you. I feel you. So I would acknowledge, right? So I started talking to the other side with coins. So for a long time, that was part of our language. And then it transferred onto numbers, right? Specific dates would show up as a payment on a receipt. Oh, and your total is, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, and I started questioning, okay, so something's happening here because it's not one time, it's not two times, it's not three. It was countless and countless of times in different places, different settings, with different people. And that's when I understood, okay, I'm not making this up. This is actually conversation,
Yeah.
right? Energetic conversation taking place. And I'm actually understanding this is happening. So you can go further with this because then I said, okay, send me this animal, right? So then I started like kind of tapping into how far can I push this so that I could validate to myself, right? Outsourcing, right?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
can validate to myself, no, this is actually true. You are
Yeah.
communicating with spirit. So numbers, coins, animals,
Hmm.
songs,
That's a big
and
one for me. Yeah.
yes, which is like, I know you're going to be like, "Ah," because songs are so big. So there are so many ways in which I started to notice the other side spirit would
Yeah.
communicate. And I started to validate it because it couldn't be coincidental. It was
Yeah.
too much, too much. When my twin sister passed away in 2023, I was with you.
Yeah.
I was with you. We were together in person for the very first time.
Yeah.
I remember I returned to work, and at that time I was working in a supermarket, and there were no, I'll say what I asked for. I felt her, and I said, if you're here, send me a balloon. I turned around in a place that did not sell balloons. I have pictures. I turn around and there's a balloon, white balloon, bobbing up and down behind me.
Wow, goosebumps.
The balloon lasted over a year.
Wow.
To this day, it is one of the biggest, most impactful signs because I felt at that time so untethered to the world. It was out of all the death experiences I've had, the one that severed my connection to this planet the most. And to have that sign come in and not only like be explainable, I went around asking, did anybody, there was nothing, right? No explanation. And the fact that it lasted so long with helium in it, changed me irrevocably. I
Yeah.
felt her with me every single day that balloon still had air.
Wow.
And
That's
and those are the things that sometimes we want to explain away, but there is absolutely no
no
way, no how,
explanation.
no
Yeah.
explanation. Like, no, this is actually happening.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking, I was like, for me too, it's like so many signs where, and around death too. Like my signs, song is number one, I feel that through songs I get messages. 2015 was my turning point, and 2014, 2015, I was doing my doctorate in physical therapy, and I had like a couple more classes to go. I was on my fourth class, and I just decided I was getting sick. It just wasn't working out. I decided that I am going to stop and not pursue that and probably put my energy in something else. And as soon as I decided that, I slept like a baby after that. Like that
Mm,
night, it was just that relief and kind of almost like, peace. I was at peace more so than anything. And then everything else started happening. The whole energy work, Reiki started. I did holistic nutrition. All that started, that 20 biggest shift for me and biggest falling apart
mm,
because I had to quit. When people say you shouldn't quit, you should keep going, they encourage that. And for me, I was like, what am I showing to my kids? I started something, I'm not finishing it. And almost like validating that only if I have the doctor in front of my name that people are going to listen to me, what I have to say, regardless of whether I'm a regular physician or not,
yeah.
the societal thing. And so I had to kind of let go of that belief system. But anyway, things just started coming together, um, and signs and everything. And Penny is a big one for me. But the song that I heard at the time to make that shift was, and the song's name is Am I Wrong by Nico, if you ever want to hear it. But yeah, songs bring me messages all the time. I'm doing dishes and there's this click that happens, and all of a sudden, a message comes through. I ask a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. I love talking about this. And recently, I've had many people ask about, birds that has come through them, or even having a conversation with a loved one that has passed, and they're like, "Am I going wrong, mad, or crazy?" I feel like I am genuinely talking to him or her, or the bird is giving me messages about my dad. Or so how can you tell that it is a message coming through from your loved one or higher beings
Hmm.
versus it's you making up the story?
I love this question
Yeah.
because just as I'm curious, I love to test the other side
Right?
constantly. So I have rules. So in my mind, I had to create a waiting room for spirits.
Hmm.
I am open from this time to this time. Do not come knocking while I'm in a public place or at work,
Hmm.
right? Just as I created that waiting room space, right? I will say, okay, I got a penny or a dime or a nickel, quarter, you name it. Send me two more. I would like two more. Or I would like it to be this date. So you become, or at least I become specific in the ask, right? Because it's easy to just say, I got a penny, I got a penny, I got a penny. But like at some point, you have to understand that it has to feel authentic. Or are you really going crazy? No, I'm kidding. You just really have to it's a back and forth, it's a give
Yeah.
and take. You are communicating. So if you are in fact communicating, show me this exact thing. By the end of the day, bring this as validation or confirmation. And that's when I was relying on the external
Yeah.
to show me. But after a while, it's so undeniable that you accept the sign immediately because it becomes a feeling in the body. So, and I talk about the body a lot because I've learned so much about everything by following my body. So, my body will feel this sense of wow, awness, of closeness. My thought will automatically veer to that person who has crossed over or that problem I'm trying to deal with in my life, you know? So it's not abstract. It's not just a sign, oh, I keep saying 333, I keep saying 333. But what was your thought when you were thinking of that 333? Pause for a second. What can you relate to that? So I always asked spirit to externally validate until I fully learned how to do it for myself,
Hmm.
right? So I had you have key systems within the body that bring up an emotion or a thought or a visual or something auditory. Clairs, right? You
Yeah.
have that and they activate when you receive information because in order for the transaction to happen, there is an energetic exchange between spirit and this realm, right? So at the beginning, we're so involved in the things that we are receiving that we're not really thinking anymore than, oh my God, I got the penny or I got this. And then we get really excited. But eventually, you learn to lean onto the expertise of the body, right? So now immediately I can recognize a specific thing as that message without having to question it so much. But I did. I thought I was going crazy. And I said, wait a minute, we have rules here. You are going to give me the same sign 3 times or give me this particular set of numbers or year. And when that became the norm, I put away the guardrails, right? I allowed spirit to just communicate openly.
Hmm.
So, how do you do it though? Because we're all different.
I love that. And I think that I should put that into more, in my understanding or my dealing, should I say dealing with the spirits? But how do I do it? Well, I don't have specific times set for them. I do get messages in dreams too at times, but sometimes I have to tell them that make it loud,
Hmm.
and I can't do subtle signs because I'm not smart enough to understand the subtle signs. So make it loud and clear. So those are the only rules I've set for
Hmm.
them. I remember like sometimes it's like just constant, like do it now, do it now, do it now. It's like, okay, okay. Or I'm mostly either I'm cooking or doing certain things that these messages come through. For instance, like it had started raining and I had ordered, it had started raining. And then constantly in my ear was like, open the door, open the door, open the door, open the door. And it's like, okay, why? It's raining. Like, why do I need to open the door? Open the door now. And I ran to the door, opened the door. There's this huge box sitting with my books, and there were like 100 books I had ordered. They were almost like the bottom was almost of the cardboard box was getting wet. Thankfully, none of the books were wet. But that was one of the thing, like open the door. That strongest message that came through. Usually they're quite subtle. I don't draw lines or anything. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
get pennies and
Yeah, there's so many ways in which spirit's constantly communicating. I think when it's funny, not funny, is when you're having to get somewhere and you're running late and
yeah.
all of a sudden no buses show up, the car
Yeah.
doesn't start, things are going haywire, and we'll call these technical glitches signs
Yeah.
where things as they should work don't work.
Yeah.
And we don't stop to think about this is a sign, right? I had a major thing happened when I was delivering my daughter. I went into the delivery room. I knew it was different. I said, this is different. The
Yeah.
nurses, the doctor were like, no, you're just afraid. It's okay. You had a baby before. You know how it is. I
Yeah.
said, no, you don't understand. This one is different. There's something going on. This baby's not going to make it. Something is different. And no one could move me from that. And I felt it all over my body. And I felt my
Mm.
grandmother around me. And she usually comes to me when I'm having medical procedures. And I felt her really strongly. I felt as if I had two levels of beingness,
Mm.
my skin and then another layer,
Yeah.
right? And it felt very activated. And I could feel like this is different. This is different. Hemali, I was wheeled into an emergency C section. They tried
Wow.
everything and she wouldn't come out. And it was heavens that she didn't come out because she would have not made it.
Wow.
She had the cord tightly wrapped around her neck, and then
Yeah.
it was pushing first. So she would have cut off her oxygen. And to this day, it makes me realize that sometimes what we think as an inconvenience, I could have just kept quiet. I could have just stopped saying, no, something is different, because they were not happy with me at the labor and delivery
Yeah.
floor.
They don't want to hear from the patient telling them.
We sometimes complain. We sometimes wonder why. The furthest thing from my mind was that I was going to have a C section. I was ready for like a vaginal birth, just like I
Mm.
had my son before, everything easy. And right away, everything started telling me this is not the same and it will not end the same way. So be
Wow.
vocal, right? And when that car doesn't start, it's for a reason. We're not
Absolutely.
aware of that right now. We may not really understand why the delay is happening, but I invite anyone who experiences these delays, these inconveniences, to sit in it and breathe. Sometimes that delay saves your life or somebody else's life, right? Sometimes the way spirit redirects you into being at the right place at the right time with the right people happens because of a delay. And we are, as human beings, very quick to dismiss things that are inconvenient for us, or I'm about to be late, I cannot miss this, or, hurrying through life. I think about moments like that specifically as an opportunity to just take a step back and say, okay, I'll wait even a little bit longer. I'll give myself 5 more minutes after that. Just having the awareness that just because you don't understand what is happening, there is a bigger energy around all of
Yeah.
us who's always watching
Yeah.
and always trying to send you little signals, sometimes not so subtly,
Yeah.
sometimes a slap in the face feeling, but they're always talking.
Yeah. And I call that divine plan, divine timing. So really
Mhm.
honor that. Like sometimes, somebody cuts you and then goes very slow. There's a reason. You don't need to go beyond that. Just calm down, breathe, take a breather, and just, go with the flow. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the whole listen, we are here right now talking, recording with microphones, with headsets
Yeah.
because of science and
Yeah.
technical glitches.
Yeah.
We have been talking for hours and hours on end for so long, just
Yeah.
between you and I, having these conversations, like sharing our stories and highlighting the biggest aspect of it. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all human, we're all spirit, and we all end up in the same place.
Yeah.
And we're talking about these things and hearing that this should be shared, right?
Yeah.
And this should be more than just between us. And jokingly, the last time, well, not the last time, but sometime in February, March, don't
Yeah.
remember, we were having a conversation and I said, and then we say, pull up a card.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah, we constantly got the same card telling us to move forward without fear and share our story.
Yeah, yeah,
Go for it.
go for it. And that happened out of the blue,
Yeah.
out of
But you and
nowhere.
I, we've worked together quite a bit. And I think at one point we were so connected that I remember sometimes I would get a message, call Sheila, or just think of you right away and just message her now, not call so much. We used to message. And then I would text you and you're like, my God, I was just thinking about you, or this is what's happening, and then I would just send you healing energies. And
Yeah.
that's happened, with you too. You've reached out like, hey, what's going on, how are you
Mhm.
doing? And um yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
And
beautiful.
yeah. And it's good to know that, and people call it telepathy, like telepathically connected, so to speak, but we have been energetically connected, and we can stay connected with a lot of people.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
messages come through all the time. It's just that when we are always busy and doing, that sometimes we don't understand or even recognize or even hear
Mhm.
these messages come through. And even like asking for help, it's like you have to ask them for help
Yeah.
for anything, whatever you're going through. They are always there, the higher beings, but you have to ask for the help.
Yeah.
Unless you're in a emergency situation and they step in when you're not able to ask, but otherwise they wait for you. They need, I want to say, permission
Mhm.
to step in and help.
Yeah. Yeah, they do because we have free will. We can always
Yeah.
choose where to go, and their intervention comes because of our request.
Yeah.
But absolutely, when there is an emergency situation, they will just step right in. And I there was a time I was working and I was waking up at 3 in the morning, leaving the house at 3:45 to go
Wow.
catch the bus. So it was still dark. I was still living in Boston. I would go the same way all of the time. The bus was not too far away, and I just had to walk a straight way down, cross a couple of streets, but it was all straight, right?
Yeah.
And I would always put mantras in the back on my headphones because they made me feel safe,
Mhm.
And it was my time to connect with spirit, right? That 3 a.m. thing.
Yeah.
I would walk and be okay. And one day I felt like I was stopped physically
Mm.
and I heard go left. And for a split second, I didn't want to because
Yeah.
I would have to go a lot further and it's still dark and I don't know that street. And I heard it louder.
Mm.
Go left. I went left, took the longer route, crossed over the two streets ahead. It wasn't until much later that day I would find out that there had been an incident on the
Mm.
street I was supposed to be walking
Wow.
on. At the time, I would have been on that street.
Wow.
And they absolutely step in when there's, we need to do this now. It's a
Yeah.
protection thing, life threatening a lot of the times. But when we are asking for intervention, a lot of the times it's not like we have to say, please send me this or please send me that, right? It's more of a like, I'm not seeing clearly. Can you make it so that I can clearly see?
Yeah.
You know? And I think there's a disconnect in the how you phrase requests for spirit, like you don't just put up a sign and say, here, money now,
Or I get this a lot. It's like, "Ooh, can you get lottery numbers?" I was like, "No, I can't." If I did, I would have gone and played those numbers, right? But
Yeah, I think it goes so beyond that. The idea is that you're assuming accountability for the outcome. So you don't say, show me where I want to go. You say, let me see clearly
yeah.
the direction of my path. Or I'm feeling confused. Can you bring clarity to my thoughts, my ideas? I
Yeah.
feel like I want to create something, help me tune into that energy, align me to that channel, right? And I know for us it's super expansive, but what about other people? What about, like, what would you say to anybody else who doesn't have these big moments
Mm.
of signs, synchronicities, glitches? What would you say? How would you say, this is how I would say to start working with this energy?
I don't know. How do you develop your intuitive, I guess, the messages? And we talked about in another episode where I think I started slowly in terms of, okay, what should I wear today? Or what does my body, what kind of food does my body need today? Like I would ask, my body, like, what do you need to nourish yourself? What do you feel like eating right now?
Mhm.
And I understand not all of us have the luxury. Sometimes we're just grabbing and going. And I think that brings us back to that being in the moment instead of just always running and catching, like playing that catching game that which we never are able to catch up to.
Mhm.
So slowing down. And the more you're in that stillness, that's when you're going to hear the messages mostly, but be aware, like be more observant. Like you can get messages and standing in line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
You can get messages on TV when you're watching something or a movie. And I think it may be an Indian thing, I'm not sure. But every time that anything, any stories that you hear, any movies, I do it with movies too. It's like, what is the moral of the story? What do you take out of this? What is something that shifted in you, or what is something that you learned from it? Just kind of deriving some things in it. I don't know how that goes back to, but going back to the intuition, I think that that also kind of, to me, I feel those are the messages that you get, like watching something or doing something that you ask a question, but have patience and faith. Patience is the most important things. Maybe you have a ask and then you want it now, because we
Mm.
live in that now world right now, but it could happen in a week or a day or a month or a year. So but just be patient that it will be when it's divine timing.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about you? What do you
Oh
think?
gosh, this is like going back to just sit with yourself. And like I said, I started getting a coin here, a coin there, feathers. And I started acknowledging and saying thank you
Mhm.
before I developed the give me three of them system, you know?
Yeah.
Just taking that time to say, this is in a space where it doesn't belong. So it has come to me for a reason, whether it's the car not starting, whether it's going a different way that you get to work, whatever it is, in that space of time, it is there to highlight a need to be in that moment.
Mhm.
And when you are in that moment and you stop and you look at the feather, the coins, the balloon, it creates space. It creates space for you to listen and engage. And like I said, for me, everything is very body centered.
Mhm.
So it would give me enough of a feeling of what has shifted around me. Or do the dishes. I think for you and I both, this is a big one. We have lives, we are busy, we do things, we have things to get done, a day to finish. But I cannot tell you how many times I just start doing dishes and I don't know what it is about the water. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is about the action of doing the dishes that disengages my mind
Mhm.
and drops me into just a vessel. And I can receive clearly big messages, small messages. It doesn't matter. I can do the dishes and as a person, in a point of view, from a point of reference, and I leave with a completely different perspective than when I walk in to do those dishes. It's
Yeah.
not the same person. Huge breakthroughs happen for me at the kitchen sink. And that is the biggest part. It is not about the big events. It is about taking that time to sink in and be in the moment, be with the breath, be with your own awareness. Receive what comes to you, not as something happening to you, but something happening for you, right? And the more you develop the ability to pause, to take a breath in the moment where things are happening, the wider the amount of signs, synchronicities, and glitches will become. Your experiences will expand, and you won't have to validate externally because you have that internal connection with that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also trusting the messages. I think the big one is not doubting it, trusting the messages. For me too, it's like, how much do I trust these messages? And the more you trust these messages, the more you walk with the guidance, move forward with the guidance, the more signs and synchronicity is going to come through.
Yeah,
More messages, the bigger messages are going to come through. I think, yeah, so trusting is a big one, I think. Don't doubt.
it's a big one and a tough one. Don't
Yeah.
doubt, right?
Yeah.
but it's not that difficult if you just allow it to be what it is when it comes to you.
Yeah.
Just say, okay, this is for me. This is a
Yeah.
gift from the universe, from spirit, from God, whatever you aligned with, right?
Yeah.
This is for me right now,
Yeah.
whatever that has as a connotation, whether it's your car not starting or traffic or whatever it is, it's for you, right? It'll allow you to start trusting again. And I think that's what's beautiful about communication with spirit
Yeah.
is that it's never ending. It doesn't have to stop. You can develop it to a point where you're like, yep, that's it. Then I have to leave my job. Nope, I have to switch lanes,
Yeah.
because you start to understand their language.
Yeah. And they're
And
fun people. They are very funny and fun, sarcastic sometimes. I have to sometimes, like, I know you're laughing up there. Like, I told you so,
I told you to listen when I say go left.
right? You wouldn't
Gosh.
listen.
Yeah, but
So,
this is I think a fun episode for us, and I
yeah.
think one that we continue to say this, the time slot is not enough. We could go deeply into
Yeah.
these topics and really expand on them because it brings up so much,
Yeah.
But the beauty of it all is that it always ends with you as your inner source,
Yeah.
right? Develop a way to communicate that's only yours. Develop a way that you say, yep, that's for me, and trust it. And that's all you need, right?
I totally agree. But it's great. We can probably have 10, 20 episodes for signs and synchronicity, but I think that we brought a lot of um, good insights into how to develop your intuitive guidance and how to look at some signs and synchronicity to move forward and deeper and higher into the consciousness.
Yeah,
So thank you for
absolutely.
listening.
Yes, thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. If there's one thing to sit with from today, Spirit is always talking through coins, songs, feathers, animals, dreams, and yes, through the things that break down at exactly the wrong time. The invitation isn't to figure it all out, it's to pause, trust what comes, and starts developing a language that's only yours. All paths lead us home. Thank you for being here with us. If this episode moves something within you, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a review. It helps more people find this space. Find us on all your favorite social media platforms. And remember, you already are what you're looking for. Trust your insight, act with purpose, and stay in your knowing.
Everything I held was always there, always there, always there. Deep inside.